If you went into teaching to make a lot of money or to have everyone be happy with you, then you probably went into it for the wrong reasons. But if you went into teaching because you love kids or, scholars, young people, and you want to make a difference in their lives, then you're just tired and you need to refresh yourself however you can. If that means taking a year off, or if that it could just mean, you need to make your time that's not related to school more of a priority this year than you ever have before. And if that's you, and you think that you're like kind of deciding, do I want to quit teaching or not? And you're just kind of burnt out and tired of dealing with, we deal with lots of issues that aren't all teaching issues, but we have to deal with them. If that's you, then I would highly suggest that you subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be giving more and more teacher self-care tips this year, and it's not all just about going and getting massages. The purpose of my channel is to help teachers find balance. And so my balance this week has been making a cross-country trip with our daughter to move her into college, and I'm so glad that I did it. It's been a great week. We have really gotten to spend some good time together, and it's been fun watching her go through everything that she needs to learn how to do, and just the excitement of all the newness of having her first apartment and all that. So I've been having a great time here. We fly back tomorrow evening, and then I will be back home and back to my regular schedule very soon, which I'm looking forward to. But today I'm on here to do a Q&A with you, because I thought that would be super easy and kind of fun, since I haven't done anything like that in a long time. So we're going to go ahead and get into the questions that you have sent me. All right, so question number 1 is, what made you decide to become a teacher? So I would say 2 things influenced me the most. The first thing would be the fact that my parents were teachers and I really admired the work that they did. And the second thing would be my first grade teacher, Miss Julie Johnson. So my dad was a high school science and math teacher. He taught several subjects. My mother was a middle school science teacher, which funny enough is what I'm doing now, not what I started out to do. But I remember when I was a little girl going to my dad's classroom and sitting at the big tall science tables on the big tall stools, and he would give me a big thick stack of his papers that he was grading and a smiley face stamper, and he would let me just stamp all of those papers. That was so fun to me. And all the things that were in his classroom, like all the lab supplies, I was like really interested in them at a young age. And then also because my parents were really interested in earth science and geology, things like that. They did a lot of camping trips. They actually took a camping class together when they were first married. And so we did a lot of camping when I was young. So I was always around all of these like natural science type of things, which is why I really enjoy that part of my job now, which I get to do quite a bit of in middle school science. So that's my parental influence. And then my influence from teachers, my first grade teacher, Julie Johnson, she was a really special person, and I've tried to reach out to her but haven't been successful. I have found some people that remembered her, but I haven't actually been able to get in touch with her. If I was able to talk to her today, I would tell her that she made a huge difference in my self-confidence, because when I was a kid, I was like really that creative, distractible type of student. I don't know if I'd really say it was ADHD or ADD, but I was that like scatterbrained, like always thinking about like my own things kid. And so sometimes that got me in a little bit of trouble. One thing that happened while I was in her classroom was that she was doing reading groups, which at the time was kind of a new thing. And she had all these stations set up around the perimeter of her classroom, and we were supposed to do the stations like 1 through 10 in that order, and each station was like a different part of practice for reading and math. And I remember that as the stations went on, like numbers 6 through 10 were a lot more fun than like 1 through 5, and they were a lot more creative, which is really what I like to do, and artsy. And so after we did these for a little while, I, as the first grader, that I was, just decided that I just really would prefer to just do, station 6 through 10 and skip 1 through 5. Like, why would I do the boring things, right? So I did this for a little while, and then she caught on, I'm sure, when she was grading papers, and I did not have all of them. But instead of reprimanding me, she realized that I was just bored and that I needed something else to do. And so she was the first person who introduced me into the idea of, kids need different kinds of experiences in class to learn, and you can't approach every student's education the same way. And so for me, she built my self-confidence, because instead of scolding me for what I was doing, instead of calling my mom, and I think she did call my mom, but they probably talked like without me, and she was like, here's what I'm gonna do, because I never got in trouble for doing this. Instead, she paired me with another student who needed a little bit more help, and I got to sit with that student and kind of like peer tutor them. And that was my first experience with teaching, really, honestly. But she's a big reason why I became a teacher. Also, we just did a lot of fun things in that class. I remember she had a sub that, it was like a friend of hers who was an artist. And when that person would come in to sub, she would, TV shows for us, like I think it was like Sesame Street or something like that. And while the show was playing, she would be up on the chalkboard drawing these beautiful illustrations. And so I just have like the fondest memories of being in that classroom. The other thing that Miss Johnson did that really made a huge difference and let me practice what I'm doing now is that she would save all of her extra papers in this cardboard box. And at the end of every like reporting period, when we got our report cards, she would take all the papers and she would say, who would like to take some of these home to practice or to play school with? And of course, I always raised my hand. It was like so fun to me to have extra things to use at home. And so, I would take big stacks of these things home, big stacks. And I would just play school with my younger brother and sister. In fact, I used this little magnetic letter board, like the Fisher-Price one, my parents got me one of those for Christmas. And I practiced and taught my brother and sister how to read before they even got to school. So yeah, I think I've always been a teacher. I did try a few other things as I got older, just out of interest, because I have a lot of different interests, and realized that everything I'm interested in, I could apply in my classroom. So I just went with teaching, and that's just who I've been for the last 30 years. So, all right, question number 2. That was a long one, by the way, but they're not all going to be like that. Why is your channel called The Trauma Informed Teacher? So I was really glad when I saw this question up there, because one of the things that I think happens to me is people see the trauma-informed teacher, and there's a buzzword out there that's like trauma-informed practices or trauma-informed teaching, that it's really about like how to help students. And I'm all about that. I'm all about the ACEs. If you know about ACEs, indicators of students being at risk due to factors that have happened to them that could be considered trauma. And then also adults who've had trauma in their past. But one thing that people don't talk about as much is that teachers who are working with students who have these issues, and even working with adults who have had these issues that may not realize that that's impacting the way that they behave as a colleague, in the way they interact, that can be a big mental health issue for a teacher. It can be a big drain on you. Not only are you dealing with your own circumstances that at times in our lives, let's be real, like life is hard sometimes, and we go through things, like all of us have our stuff that we go through. And so you're coming in a classroom and you're trying to take care of students, take care of families, give them the best education they can get, and meet their needs. But then at the same time, you have your own stuff going on, right? Well, that can be, teacher trauma. But also teacher trauma can be dealing with students who've had traumatic experiences and they're not processing them well, or they haven't had a chance to process them well. Taking care of those students is a major drain on you as a person if you're not filling yourself back up, and if you're not paying attention and checking in with yourself and seeing how you're doing and how you're dealing with those things. When kids have meltdowns in your classroom as a result of trauma, when they act out, when they become behavior issues due to the things that they're going through, that's a drain on teachers. And so the trauma-informed teacher, the idea of it is how to help teachers have balance so they can fill themselves back up so that they can go into the classroom and not be burnt out by these kids with these situations. So right now in education, you've probably heard that many teachers are leaving the profession. And I think some of that is because of, not being appreciated or not being paid what for what we do. But I think that a lot of teachers, they went into the job not thinking that they were going to get all these praise reports and all these awards and all these recognitions and great pay. That's not why we went in it. We went into the profession because we wanted to help people, right? We wanted teaching as a helping profession. And so the type of person who's drawn to that profession is the type of person who just is a giver normally. I'm not saying 100% of people that go into teaching are like that, but some of the best teachers are big givers, and giving to the point of the fact where we will run out of steam if we're not careful. And so my channel is about filling up, having balance, just maintaining your home life as well as your work life, and putting limits on things and setting boundaries that are healthy so that you can do a great job but still rest and just get the energy back that you need so that you can go back in the classroom and do an awesome job for your students. All right, question number 3. This is a lot lighter. What is the funniest thing a student has ever done? Okay, I've been teaching for 27 years now, and I've seen a lot of really funny things. The 2 that are coming to my mind right now, when I was teaching elementary school one year, we had those seats that are like the plastic molded seats, and they have, the little like cutouts in the back of them. This particular type of seat was big enough that if you were a small student, you could actually get stuck in there if you tried to stick like a body part in the slots in the wrong place. So I had this kid who actually stuck his head. Don't ask me how he really got it in there. He stuck his head in the back of the seat chair, of the chair, and he was stuck. And it literally, like, the whole class, we were just like, at first we were all looking at him like, oh my gosh, how did he do that, right? Like, it didn't even look like he could fit, but somehow, I don't know, like, I wasn't watching when it happened. I don't remember if I was leading a group or helping a kid with something and then I looked up, or if I was like direct teaching, and I was looking like in a different direction, but he did it pretty quickly. And then I turned and he was there, and his head is like through the back of the seat, and he was like bent over, and he's like, Miss Ludolph, he's like, I can't get out. And you don't want to like laugh at him because the poor kid, he was scared at that point, but he's one of these kids that was always doing weird things. Like, he was just very, mobile. He had 2 seats. He had a seat in the back of the room and a seat in the front of the room, so that if he needed to move, he could just move between the seats, and no big deal. That was our understanding. But yeah, we ended up we tried everything, different things. Like, I had the custodian come in there and help me, and eventually we got it off. But that poor kid's head, I think, was like squeezed, and his ear was probably deformed afterwards. I was teaching 3rd grade when that happened. So the other thing that happened when I was teaching middle school that I will never forget, and I still keep in touch with the student, and we laugh about it when we talk. But I had this really like smart kid in my class, and she just was some days kind of like a heckler a little bit when she's in a certain mood, because middle schoolers, they can just be that way. And she was one that, she was that, and smart, like, I'm smarter than the teacher kind of smart. She probably was about some things, not about everything, but she knew it. Anyway, she came into my room one day with a list of things that you could do when the class was boring. It was like a list of 100 things, and she typed them up, and somehow she'd managed to run copies, and she was handing them out to the students. And it took me a little while. And of course, like, when this first happened, like, I wasn't really like digging it. Like, I didn't think it was that funny, but now looking back on it, I can laugh because she was just so obnoxious. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. She also brought a guitar into the classroom one day, just brought it to school for no reason at all. She wasn't bringing it for a presentation in another class, nothing. She just brings a full-size guitar into my classroom and she's like, where can I put this? And I'm like, I don't know. Why do you have that? Anyway, we have a great relationship now, so it all worked out, but kids do some funny things. Okay, number 4, what do you look for in a principal? Okay, so this question is a good question for me because I have worked in a lot of different places. Sorry, I'm trying to get out of that glitter, but it's just not working. Well, I just look down at you like that. It's just gonna be there. Sorry, guys. I've worked in a lot of places because we've moved around, and several times I've worked in, let's see, California, Ohio was my home state, and North Carolina. And I've worked for like 8 different school districts, and I've worked in elementary and I've worked in middle school. So I have had some really good principals and I've had some not so good principals. And one thing that I learned the more that I, changed jobs was that the type of principal that you have and that principal's like way of managing compared to your philosophy of teaching and your personality can make a huge difference in how successful you are. So you can be a person, and I've personally experienced this, who's like an awesome teacher, and you can be very successful and you can have like great growth and great scores. And just, in general, like if the students can be learning and engaged in one setting because you have the support that you need. And then you can go to another setting, or you can have a change in administrators, and all of a sudden they think that you're a terrible teacher, and you become that kind of person when people don't believe in you. So I guess I would say I would look for a person who you can tell their philosophy of teaching matches yours closely. It doesn't have to be an exact match, but either that or somebody who appreciates that there are differing ways of doing things. Because as a creative person, there are some times when I want to do things that are outside of the box, and people can't really like relate to what I'm trying to do until they see me do it. And if you have a principal that doesn't appreciate that, then a lot of your like projects or special things that you want to do with your students can get canned before you even get started. So I would say just look for a person who is going to appreciate your style, because we all have our own style, and that's honestly what makes a great education for a student, is having teachers, experiencing teachers that are different, because let's face it, they're going to have different jobs as they grow up. They're probably not going to have just one job as an adult. Students now tend to have like a lot more jobs than we have had over the years in our generation. So it's important for them to be able to get along with different types of people. And so having different types of teachers is an asset in a school building. It's not a negative. And, if you follow me, you know that I am working on finishing up my principal licensure. I've done all the classes. I have the degree, but because of COVID, I didn't get to do the internship. I'm about to do that this year. And then I'll be able to actually put it on my license that I'm certified as a principal. And so, my dream when I get to have a chance to, serve a school as an administrator is that I want to encourage diversity in my staff. Not, of course, I want to encourage, like ethnic diversity, differing backgrounds, racial backgrounds, economic backgrounds, and different experiences. But I also want to encourage diversity of like teaching styles, because I think that's just so good for a school building to have lots of different types of people who can be smart enough to understand that that's something good, that not everybody has to think like you, not everybody has to teach like you to be a great teacher, and we can all be great in our own way. So I think that's really important in a principal. And also I would say as a side note, super important that they're supportive when you have problems with parent or student behavior. I meant to say student behavior and parent, like, communication, but kind of came out as parent behavior, which can be sometimes parent behavior. Let me tell you, that's a story for another day. But if you're a teacher, Anyway, just you have to have like a person who's not in your classroom all the time doesn't understand what's going on in there. Your principal will kind of understand if they're in and out of your classroom enough, but really you're the only one who totally understands because you've built that culture and you know how it's supposed to work, and you know when it's not working, and you know when the students aren't following your your ways of doing things in your classroom, and you have to address that. Like, if there's ever a question that you weren't doing things for the right reasons, you need a principal who's going to back you up. So that's super important as well. All right, next. So, number 5, what is your best advice for a new teacher? Okay, so I've kind of gotten into this a little bit already because of the last question. Number 1, don't take the first job that you're offered unless you're absolutely sure that you're a good fit there. Like, they're looking to see that you're a good fit, but some places are going to just be like looking for a warm body, especially right now because there are teacher shortages everywhere. And so someone might hire you and they might have in mind something different than what you think is going to happen. And so you need to be careful and ask questions that, without being like too pushy, will kind of like give you an idea of what kind of culture that school has. So you're going to be successful as a brand new teacher based on your support system. So you need to make sure that there's good for the school district that you are going to be trying to work for, that they have a good teacher orientation program, that they have a good mentorship program that's kind of setting you up for success, and that the like main values of that school, the mission of that school, are in line with what you feel you're good at, what your strengths are. Don't just take the first thing just because you feel like that's the only way you're going to become a teacher. Like, you can hold out, even though you're a brand new teacher, you have value, and you don't have to teach for just anybody. You need somebody that's going to appreciate a balance between home life and work life, and not expect you to like work all of these committees like that totally drain you as a first year teacher. A first year teacher, honestly, from an administrator perspective, a first year teacher should not be doing too many things outside of just learning how to do the main job of teaching in their classroom. There are so many things that you learn in the first 3 years as a teacher, even the first 5 years as a teacher. But I would say, at least for the first couple of years, you don't need to be on a lot of after school committees. If everyone in the school is required to do it, okay, obviously you can't help that, but don't volunteer for things that you don't have to do, because you are learning your practice, and you are going to make mistakes, and you're going to figure it out as you go. That's just part of being a new teacher. But make sure you know who your people are. Like, find your people that you can trust to talk to about the challenges that you're having in your classroom, and they're not going to like use that against you. You have to be very careful. Don't vent to just everybody, because some people are like, I don't know why, but some people will be catty and might like go behind your back and try to make you look bad, and that's not what you need. You need people that are going to build you up. So I would say that make sure that the school has a good like social culture, that people treat each other well. You can find this out by asking us some questions in interviews, or you can just ask if you can visit the school and speak to some of the teachers that work there, and see if you can get a vibe about how they feel about working there. If you have a lot of people that don't want to answer questions, or like kind of avoiding questions about those kind of things, or if they are just kind of like giving off a lot of negativity, I mean, you might find 1 or 2 of those in a building, but you shouldn't find a whole bunch of them. So be picky, And then also, I just want to say, have balance. Don't spend all of your time at school. You're going to spend a lot of time as a new teacher because you're learning, but don't feel like you have to spend all of your time at school, because you will learn, and it might take you a little bit longer. But if you burn yourself out, then you're not going to last very long, and we want you to stay in the classroom for a long, long time. So that's my advice to a new teacher. All right, number 6, what is your favorite place or that you've ever taught? And also, going along with that, what's your favorite grade level that you've ever taught? Okay, hold. This is really hard. I have had so many great experiences in so many different places that it's hard to like pick one. I would say like, you know, there's feeling good about like where you're living, and enjoying that whole experience. And then there's also like just really enjoying the culture of the school. I would say that probably one of my best places that I've ever taught is where I'm at right now, as far as the way that people support each other and the way that there's a community. All of the teachers are just very, they're good. Like you can go and talk to them about anything, and they're positive and they love the kids. They're there for the right reasons, and that's just such a sense of family. And I really think that is one of the major things that can make you successful, is if your team is awesome. But as far as like one of the neatest schools that I've ever worked for, as far as the things that they did in the school, like for the kids and for the community, I really loved it when I taught my very first 2 years in California. I taught at Rialto Unified School District at Myers Elementary School, and my principal, she was like not that far from retirement, and she was amazing. She made the difference in that school. We had all kinds of assemblies for the students, just so many experiences for the kids. We just did a lot of fun things for them. We made learning fun. And I think, building your school culture, like not just what you're doing in the classroom, but what you're doing like as a student body and as a group of teachers together to build that family sense, it's a big thing. So I think that's probably honestly my favorite place I've ever taught. And my principal was so good at spotting people's strengths and weaknesses and putting people in the right positions for what they were going to be good at. So that made my experience there like very, very good. And also I just had some really good friends and some really good mentors there. So my first couple years of teaching, that was just an awesome experience. Like honestly, I feel like I don't know if I can keep comparing all the other situations that I've had, and I don't know that anything would ever measure up to it. And maybe it's just because like it was my honeymoon season of teaching, and so I have all these like, I don't know, fantasies build up in my mind of all the things, because it was hard like any other teaching job, but I just really enjoyed it. And I think my principal was all the difference, honestly, just the way that she handled things, and the way that she treated her staff, and I just loved it there. So plus, sunny California, who could complain, right? All right. And then what's your favorite grade level you've ever taught? Honestly, third grade. I think third grade was my favorite. I really liked teaching first grade as well. So like I enjoy when I'm teaching right now, science in the middle school, but also I think my personality is very, very suited to elementary classrooms. And when I move into administration, that's probably the direction that I will head, is towards an elementary position, because I just think it's my personality. Like it's who I am. Although I, over the years, have gotten better and better at being a middle school teacher and interacting with students that are in that developmental stage of their lives, which if you're a middle school teacher, then you know that they're just a very different breed of student. Like kids that are going through all of that development, that rapid development in their lives, they just think differently. They respond differently when things aren't going their way. And if I wasn't like a teacher that had a lot of years of experience under my belt, then I think that that probably wouldn't have been a great place for me. But, now I've had a lot of experience and learned a lot about developmental levels and how to help kids at different levels when they're doing different parts of their development. So, when a kid is kind of like acting out or whatever, I just be like, okay, well, they are a middle schooler and this is pretty normal, and not let it bother me, But I really love teaching third grade, because third graders, like, school is still kind of magical to them. And honestly, K through 3, it's that way. Not every kid is that way, but most of them. So they want to be there and they want to please the teacher. And so that's fun, and also they haven't seen everything yet. So you can do things with them that they've never seen before and they can be amazed. And that's the most fun as a teacher when you help your kids have that like light bulb moment, where you show them something that they think is so cool and they're learning and they don't even think they're learning, like they're just having a good time. Like I really love third grade for that reason. And third graders are getting to that point where they've just made the switch to like more of an abstract thinking, or they're making that switch to abstract thinking, and it's really fun to start asking kids some like deeper questions and helping them get there, when they've just started doing that. So I really like that age level. Okay, but to all my students I have right now for science, I do love you, and I love, love, love science, so not going anywhere right now. Okay, number 7, have you ever wanted to do anything else as a career? This is a quick one. So when I was in 6th grade, I had known that I wanted to be a teacher for years, and I started exploring like careers, and we had a class that it was like a wheel class, which if you know what a wheel class is, it's sort of like where you take these classes for like maybe 3 or 4 weeks and then you switch, or it might be like 9 weeks and then you switch to something else. And it's just like an experience class. So it's a way for them to offer sort of like little tastes of things that you might want to do later. Like they could offer things like finance, and they could offer, music or art, theater, or some type of art, or, business, or all these different things that, you could explore as a middle schooler. And one of the classes that everyone had to take was the career class. And we did like personality tests and career inventories and things like that. And mine came up that I would be good as a librarian, which I could still see myself. And I did work in a bookstore for a while, which I really loved. So I just love to read. And a teacher, of course. But then the other thing was a flight attendant, because I love experiencing different cultures and traveling. I thought I wanted to be a flight attendant for a little while. So in 6th grade, I had a brief dream of being a flight attendant, and then I went back to teaching. I also almost became a singer, like a vocalist. I did a lot of music, like music lessons. My mom tried to teach me piano, which we fought too much, so that didn't work very well. But I had a lot of experiences with singing and vocalizing and being in different, singing groups as I grew up. And then I was in choirs. And so when I went into college, I was in the college choir for a little while. And then my classes started overlapping with education, and I couldn't move them because the way my university was set up, you get placed into a group and then you stay with that group and you take all of the classes together. So some of my sections of my education courses were set already once I got into that section where I was taking my education classes, which was my sophomore year basically. So I did the music thing for about a year, and then I had to make a decision and I decided teaching. So, okay. Number 8, what is your favorite vacation spot? So now with the personal questions. Joe and I love to go new places that we've never been before, but I think that one of the most fun vacations that we've ever had was when we went to Maine a few years ago. I love it. We went to Rehoboth Beach and Old Orchard Beach in Maine, and I just absolutely love it. It's so different up there. Like once you cross up into New York and beyond, it's just a different feeling. And I just love the woodsy feeling of that area. And then of course, you're there on the coastline, and we went to the lobster festival, like Maine Lobster Festival in Rockport. And I love that area. It's just so gorgeous. And there's so many cute little quaint shops and little towns that you can walk through and just have a fun time doing about nothing, so I would say that's my favorite vacation spot. Of course, I just went to Africa. It wasn't a vacation, it was a working journey, but I don't know. I might go back there on vacation one day with my husband. We'll see. Okay, number 9, do you have any hobbies? Well, traveling to new places is a hobby for me. Also, I like gardening, which I think I'll get more and more into, like maybe in my retirement. Like now, I feel like I want to do a lot of stuff and I have a lot of plans, but I can't always have the time that I need to dedicate to it to make it happen the way that it is in my mind. So I feel like that's something I'm going to do more as I get like older, you know? Try to think what else. Well, just spending time with my grandson, and I'm about to have a granddaughter in November. So I love family. I don't know that you can call that a hobby, but it's just like something that I like to do with my time that I'm happy doing. Trying to think, vlogging. This is a hobby. So building my channel, and I am a writer. I haven't been doing a lot of it lately, but I love to write. And one day I hope to write some teaching books in my retirement. So that's why I'm building my audience and my community with you guys now, so that one day maybe you all will want to read my book. All right, number 10, last question. What would you say to a teacher who is thinking of leaving the profession? So this is a hot topic right now, guys. There are more teachers that have left the profession in the last few years than have like historically ever left the profession. And it's really sad and alarming. Of course, what you say to somebody depends on like where they're at. So you kind of have to know their story and, you know, why is it that they want to do this? So some of the major reasons for leaving the profession would be a lack of support. And I would say from my experience in teaching in different areas that support's not just about the general community, but it's a lot about your administration. So if it's not working for you, then maybe you need to go somewhere else where it will work. And that might not be a popular opinion, because, you know, there's value in staying in one place. There is. But if your place that you're in is draining you and people aren't respecting your boundaries for personal time, and you're just getting burnout, and you're not having the support that you need to be the best version of you that you can be in the classroom, and you've tried other ways of learning and tried ways of like fixing the problem, whatever it might be, you've tried to do your part, then I would say it's time to find a better placement. You can change like grade levels, you can change districts, you can change buildings. Any one of those changes can make a huge difference in how you feel about teaching. So if you went into teaching to help kids and you love kids and you want to do what's best for kids and you're not just there for you, then I would really take time. Don't make that decision lightly, because students need you. You have something to give, and students need you. So if what you need to do is get into a situation where you're better supported, then that's what you need to do. And take your time figuring out what that would be. You know, maybe you need to take like a little break, but don't quit. That would be my suggestion. But you know, sometimes people need to leave the profession for other reasons. They might need to leave because there's something going on in their family. They need to spend more time with their family right now. And I totally am in support of that. It's a time of your life where that's priority, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. If maybe your spouse needs you to do something else for a while, then you do that, you know. You do what you have to do to make things work for your family and your lifestyle, but don't give up completely on teaching, if you don't have to. You know, if you're just not happy, like, well, here's the thing. If you went into teaching to make a lot of money or to have everyone be happy with you, then you probably went into it for the wrong reasons. But if you went into teaching because you love kids or, you know, scholars, young people, and you want to make a difference in their lives, then you're just tired and you need to refresh yourself however you can. If that means taking a year off, or if that, it could just mean, you know, you need to make your time that's not related to school more of a priority this year than you ever have before. And if that's you, and you think that you're like kind of deciding, do I want to quit teaching or not? And you're just kind of burnt out and tired of dealing with, like, I mean, we deal with lots of issues that aren't all teaching issues, but we have to deal with them. If that's you, then I would highly suggest that you subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be giving more and more teacher self-care tips this year. And it's not all just about going and getting massages, although that can help sometimes when you're stressed out. It's about like the way that you balance your life and what you find important and how you're spending your time in relation to what you find important, and making sure that you have a support network, that you have, whether that's just, friends, or it could be people at church, or, wherever you find your support, that you have a good support network so that you have a way of, I don't want to say unloading, because those poor people, but you have to have those people that, you can talk to, and they're your sounding boards, and they will listen when that's all you need, and they will give you advice when that's what you need, and they'll just make you feel better about everything. You need to have those people in your life. So subscribe to my channel, and I'll be talking a lot more about that. And I'm also going to be giving a lot of back to school content that is useful. So if you're a teacher and you haven't subscribed, subscribe now and hit notification bell so that you'll get a little pop-up that will say that I have a new video out. But anyway, thanks for listening to me. Thank you for being patient with me and getting all of my classroom setup content out, because it's been a crazy, crazy summer. Lots going on, and I've had a great time, but I'm also looking forward to getting back into my routine when I get back home. That's it for today. I hope everybody, wherever they're at, is enjoying the last bits of their summer, or if you're setting up your classroom, that you're having a great time and doing something for you as well as working. Don't forget to work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen.